You can see not only is this tree bigger, the leaves on it are a lot more green than this one here. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope all y'all are having an awesome day. It is Thursday, May 25th here in South Georgia, and today we're going to spend a little time in the fig orchard. I'm going to walk around and show you what varieties are loading up with figs already, talk about some of the damage we might have gotten during that Arctic blast before Christmas. I'm going to show you my new expansion to the fig orchard, and then show you some pretty incredible results I've seen with mushroom compost and potted fig trees. So this area here behind our greenhouse is the oldest portion of our fig orchard, and most of these trees in here are about 4 years old, so they're really starting to produce well for us, expecting some really good production this year. This Canadria tree right here, which is one of my favorite varieties, is absolutely loaded with figs. These get pretty big, and when they ripen, they're about a kind of a greenish yellow color, and then have a nice pink inside there. Delicious berry flavored fig. And then we have our LSU tiger tree here, and it's loading up as well. Looks like we're gonna get some really good production from this tree this year. Next to those trees, we've got this Violet de Bordeaux tree. This is another berry fig, kind of like the Canadria. Now, these figs don't get as big as the Canadria figs do, but they tend to have a little more rich berry flavor. So these are loading up, and hopefully we get to taste some of these pretty soon. And a few other varieties that are starting to load up for us would be this White Marcel's fig tree here. This is a honey fig, and it's a really fast grower. So this tree here is about 4 years old. We have cut on this tree a good bit, and you can see just how much growth we've got. We've also got some of these cold hardy Olympian figs starting to put on an early crop there. Starting to see some improved Celeste figs develop on these two trees. And starting to see some good production on this variety here called Brooklyn White. This is one we haven't propagated yet, so it's not on our website, but hopefully we can propagate some of these later this year. And then over here on the other side of the property, where we've recently expanded our fig orchard, we've got this LSU gold tree, which is really starting to load up. These are some delicious honey figs. And then our black Malta, or Malta black figs, are starting to load up a little bit here. These aren't as far along as some of the other varieties, but this is one of our favorite berry varieties that we have. Now, one of the questions we get pretty often has to do with fig cold hardiness and in what zones fig trees can be grown. And that's kind of a tough question for me to answer because it doesn't get really cold down here, so it's really hard for me to test cold hardiness. Now, if you go online, you can find quite a few blogs, people talking about cold hardy varieties and how they survived during certain winter temperatures. But those blogs don't always agree with one another, and so it's really hard to define an exact temperature for cold hardiness for certain varieties. Now, the Arctic blast we had before Christmas, when it got down to 17 degrees here, didn't hurt these established trees at all. You can see they all look good. Didn't really bother them at all. It did bother some of the young trees we had in our orchard, some of those that we just planted last year. Let me show you some of that damage. So here's a good example with two trees I planted last year. This is a variety called Hog Island fig, and you can see that limb sticking up there with no leaves on it. That would have been last year's growth that got killed by the Arctic blast. Now we can see we've got a lot of new growth on here, so it didn't kill this tree, but it did kill some of that growth from last year. Right over here we have exactly the same variety, but a tree that just didn't take it as well as that other one did. So this one got bit back pretty hard. Still alive, still putting on some green growth. That goes to show you why it's so difficult to really predict cold hardiness with these figs. We've got the same variety here. One handled it a lot better than the other. And here's another really good example with this Salem Dark variety. So I planted 3 trees of this variety last year. This one here, the 1-year-old growth, got killed by the Arctic blast, but we've got some new growth coming through there. But the other 2 trees that I planted last year are toast. We can't see anything on those, and I need to fill those gaps. And we can kind of see the same thing with this variety that I planted last year called Sangue Dolce. This tree right here doesn't look great, but it's still alive, still kicking, still putting on new leaves. Right beside it, we have the same variety, and that one is Toast. That one is Sangue Dede. So when folks ask about fig tree cold hardiness, this is usually what I tell them. If you're consistently getting in the low teens, you need a way to cover that tree or have that tree in a pot so you can bring it inside. We got down to 17 here before Christmas, and it stayed pretty cold for a few days. Didn't bother these established trees here. So I would say, you know, down to 15 or so, you're probably okay if it is an established tree. But we learned some valuable things about these 1-year-old trees where we lost a few of those. And that would be, if you're expecting real cold temperatures or know you're going to get some real cold temperatures, you may want to keep that tree in a pot for another year or so. Let it get a little bit bigger, let it get a little better root system established before you plant it outside, because we lost a few of our trees we planted last year, as you can see. And if you purchase a fig tree from us or from somebody else, it's not going to hurt to leave it in the pot an extra year as long as you're able to keep it watered. I've had this tree here in this pot for going on about 1.5 years now. I could put it in the ground anytime I wanted. All that's really happened is this hardened off part of the tree right here has just gotten longer. Still got a nice root system in here, as you can see. Not really hurting anything leaving it in here. So you don't have to be in a huge hurry to get them in the ground. You may want to let them get a little bit bigger so they're a little more cold tolerant. So now let me show you how we expanded our fig orchard and have about 30 or so new to us varieties planted currently. So like I told you earlier, this is kind of where it all started, and we have drip irrigation running underneath that pine straw that keeps all those trees nice and watered and happy. So recently what we've done is extended it out this way and over there on the other side of our compost bin. So where you see fresh new pine straw, it's pretty much all new trees that we planted over the last month. So we just tied into our existing irrigation system, ran more main line all the way down there to the end of our property. We have it crossing over the rows down there where those few established trees are, and then the main line comes back this way. So it's kind of an elaborate web of main line, but it keeps all these trees nice and happy. So not too long ago, just a few months ago, this was 2 established garden plots, but now it's all fig trees, as you can see. So we've added 4 more rows in here. We've got 3 of those 4 rows planted. I stacked the rows in here pretty tight, just left enough room for my mower to kind of mow between the rows there, which is about 60 inches or so. Now, normally if you were growing these figs for fig production, you probably wouldn't want to put these trees this close together, but we're growing these for cutting production, so we're packing them in here pretty tight, knowing that we're going to be cutting on these trees and pruning them pretty hard. So where you see pine straw there is where we've already put new fig trees, spaced 10 foot apart. Again, that's pretty close, but it works for what we're doing. This row right here where there's not any pine straw, I just put down some of those composted wood chips kind of as a placeholder so I don't run over the main line that's sitting right there. We're going to probably plant this row in the next month or so. I've got some trees in the greenhouse I'm waiting to get a little bit bigger before we put them in the ground here. Now, I won't go through all 30 or so of the new varieties, but I'll show you a few that I'm really excited about. This tree here isn't that big. This is a variety called Strawberry Varieties. Never tried one of these, but the pictures I've seen look pretty amazing. Then I planted a couple trees of this variety here called Cherry Cordial. I was able to get some cuttings of this variety and propagate the cuttings myself. This is a really pretty fig. It's got kind of a bell shape to it, and it looks delicious as well. And then we've got a few trees from this variety here, which is just called Smith. Not near as tasty sounding as Cherry Cordial or Strawberry Verite, but this is a pretty highly regarded variety in the fig community, and I tried some of these when I was over at Cajun Bee's place and liked them a lot. So those are just a few of the varieties we've added recently, and as those others grow and start to give us some figs in the next year or two, we'll be sure to tell you about those as well. And before I show you those mushroom compost results, I got a couple varieties here that a lot of people have been waiting on. We released a few of these about a month ago and they went really quick on the website. Didn't really have a chance to mention it on a video, but I am now. So we've got Malta Black here, which, like I told you earlier, is one of my favorites. And then we've got the Italian 258, which is a pretty highly regarded variety. I've got 4 of each of these left, and they'll be live on the site as of the time this video airs. So if you want to grab some of these before we don't have any more until next year, now's the time. Like I said, only got 4 of each left. So now let me show you some pretty cool results from a mushroom compost experiment I did. Not an experiment I was trying to do, just one I happened to do, and saw some pretty interesting results. And as we've been showing you these trees, you'll notice some of them are bigger than others. Some varieties just root quicker and take off quicker than other varieties do. But in this case, the difference in size between these 2 trees here really has nothing to do with these being different varieties. This G.E. Neri variety and this Olympian variety usually roots pretty good and takes off pretty quick. But this tree has mushroom compost in the pot, and this one doesn't. So all our fig trees start out like this in this little 2.5-inch pot. And for those cuttings that root and make some leaves, we then step them up to this pot here. Now initially I'd got a big load of potting mix, or they called it bed mix, from a local supplier, and that's what I was using to step up this into this pot here. So that's what we used on this G.E. Neri tree right here. But at some point I ran out of that bed mix I had, and I still had a few more trees to step up into larger pots, but not enough trees to justify going and getting another big load of the stuff. So in my wheelbarrow under the barn, I had some potting mix and some mushroom compost mixed together we had used on some of our raised beds. So I said, well, I'll just use a little bit of that since I've got some left over. That's what I use in this pot here. You can see not only is this tree bigger, the leaves on it are a lot more green than this one here. Now there's nothing wrong with this tree right here. This is a nice, good looking fig tree, but this one here is pretty dang impressive, the one that was grown with the mushroom compost. So I think in the future I'm still going to use that bed mix, but I'm going to manually mix in a little bit of mushroom compost myself after seeing these results here. And if you have a lot of potted plants or potted fruit trees and you haven't tried mushroom compost, you may want to try adding a little bit. They could make your plants really pop, make them look really good. So I hope you enjoyed seeing that mushroom compost comparison and seeing some of the early fruit production we've got going on here in our fig orchard. And if you haven't been to our website, lazydogfarm.com, lately, I just redid the site, made it a little more fig centric. Got the fig varieties broken up into flavor categories, which is what a lot of people had been requesting. So you can now kind of shop by honey, berry, or sugar flavored figs. We'll be adding a lot more fig information in the future. If you have any other fig related questions, put those in the comments below and we'll be glad to try and answer them for you. And if you want to see the setup and installation for our fig tree irrigation system here, check out this video. We show you all the pieces we used, how we put them all together, and created a nice system that's out of the way. We're not tripping over it, but it keeps these trees very happy. So check that out, and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.